Hello there. I'm Matthew Gibson, MD, and I'm a psychiatrist and therapist in addition to being a family doctor. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about black and white thinking. Now, for black and white, I'm not just talking about the difference between how I like my coffee and how my wife likes hers. I'm talking about something that happens in our minds that takes away flexibility of thinking and kind of narrows it down to specific categories. That tends to be, very stark, very rigid, black or white. The mental phenomenon is often referred to as splitting as well, splitting apart the parts that are good and bad, black and white. Different theorists will use different terms and mean slightly different things. There are nuances and difference. So I'm simplifying it a little bit. Melanie Klein was a British psychoanalyst that really championed a lot of the thought around splitting and what she called object relations theory. Objects being part people. So a subject is a whole person and an object is a representation of a person. I'm not going to get into the weeds about all of that, but suffice it to say that she put a lot of thought into thinking and how other people live in our minds, and then how our relationships are built on these mental representations. So more of that is topic for another video. But black and white thinking can sometimes get a bad rap. And even in previous videos, I have emphasized the limitations of black and white thinking. And today I want to talk a little bit about some of the benefit of black and white thinking. So, nuanced thinking or more flexible thinking has a lot of advantages. So Melanie Klein split up these two modes of thinking. She called one the paranoid schizoid position, that's black and white thinking, and the other is depressive position, which is more advanced and nuanced thinking. So for schizoid, paranoid schizoid thinking, emphasize the schizoid, which is split. Schizoid is split. And then depressive position, well, that's a topic for another video. My key point in bringing that up, the positions, is she did call them positions or modes of thinking and not stages. Now, while it is a more sort of advanced or mature way of thinking, the depressive mode or sort of nuanced, balanced way of thinking is not necessarily superior to the black and white thinking. And that's what I want to emphasize today, that there are advantages to black and white thinking as well. I think it's really necessary, and here's some of why. So, black and white thinking. So, for one thing, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of mental energy to really appreciate the complexities of a lot of things. It really requires a lot of thought. It requires time. It often requires other minds to help us think about all the facets of things. In therapy work, this is a lot of what I am doing with my clients. We are engaged in depressive mode thinking. We're sort of challenging the kind of rigid ideas that we have and kind of exploring other possibilities. There's a lot of benefit to that. However, because that takes a lot of energy, we're navigating our lives on a daily basis. We don't have time to think about and time and energy to think about depressive mode thinking, complex thinking all the time. There's a lot of things that we need to make snap judgments about, that we need to decide, okay, this person who's trying to talk to me, this person that I see over there that I don't know, right? Is that a threat or is that a benefit? Do I need to walk away? Do I need to get closer, find out more information about this? I need to make kind of some snap judgments. And black and white thinking helps us to do that. Now, it can be wrong, and that's important to recognize, but black and white thinking is draws on previous experience and helps you to make a quick assessment about something. And that's a real advantage in some situations, especially in situations where you might be in danger, where someone reminds you of a situation in the past or activates some older instinctual parts of the brain that's like, okay, there's something fishy about that person. I just want to walk away. I don't want to go over there. That advantage of the speed of thinking is really important sometimes. So another way that black and white thinking can be really helpful, I really like this one, is we emphasize sort of the dark part or the bad part, and how sometimes that can limit our thinking. But what about the good part, right? So there's some real disadvantages to idealization, to only looking at the pleasant or good parts about another person. But there's advantages too, right? So if you're just starting off a new relationship and there's a lot of things that you like about this person, right? And all of a sudden, you're sort of focused in and you're like, wow, they're so great. I can't believe they do this. They're just so beautiful. They are so accomplished. They're just, we get this sort of enthralled, infatuated, and it's important to not stay in that phase all the time. But I think in all of our relationships, for them to be healthy, there needs to be moments, there needs to be times when we're just completely enthralled, completely captured by how amazing this person is. I think it's really important at the start of a relationship, as a relationship can't really take off too much if you're from the very beginning seeing all of the parts you don't like about them too. So there's an advantage to starting a new relationship and really focusing on the good parts. Don't ignore the red flags. But to really get started in a relationship, you need to have that hope. You need to have that focus in on the good things, the things that you like about this person. And I think idealization helps us to do that. And I think it's actually a really key need in long-term relationships too, to come back to that at times. When you've been with someone for a very long time, you can't help but know all of the things, all of the bad parts, the parts that you don't like as much, that they're not best qualities. And so you're sort of faced with that, whatever, they leave the toilet seat up and they are messy, or, whatever it is that is not your favorite part. I think in order to continue in a long-term relationship with any human being who does have good parts and bad parts, it is really important that we have times also that we can become infatuated with them again, that we can have that idealization, that we can have those moments where you look at your partner and you just say, wow, they are perfect. They are so amazing. I am so glad that they're in my life. And I think having moments where you have that idealization is really important for the longevity of the relationship too. And I come back to babies on this as well. I really think that it is critically important for everyone's survival and also for the development of a healthy new human being, is that we do have to have idealization at times. I have 4 kids, so I can tell you, right? There's plenty to have complex thinking about, and there's some downsides. The middle of the night crying, the blowout diapers, there's plenty of things that that are downsides, but there's also times that I think it's so important that we be able to hold that newborn baby, that toddler, that preschooler, that middle schooler, that high schooler, etc. That child that's your child, and to be able to look at that child and say, they are utterly perfect. I am so in love with this child. I love this child with my whole heart. And I don't think you can force that. I think there is something that's necessary for the bond between parent and child, where at times you have to be able to see them for all of their best parts and just say they are perfect. And so I'll segue a little bit there. I think that's one of the challenges for some parts of, ultra fundamentalist religions that, that have this idea that we're, utterly, sort of fundamentally flawed from birth. You're marred by sin from the moment of birth. And I can appreciate, because I have 4 kids, that, every human being, including a child, does have complexity, does have good parts and bad parts. There's parts we like, there's parts we don't like. Well, that's a fact of all human beings. That's a fact of existence. However, I think the idea of a fundamental sin nature is just wrong. And I think that especially when we approach our children with that idea that they're fundamentally sinful and flawed, it really damages them psychologically. And I think it's really important that we recognize that, yes, they're going to be imperfect like anyone else is, that they're also absolutely perfect, that they have this potential for growth inside of them already. It doesn't have to come outside of them. They already have this potential for greatness, for all the great things that they're going to do. They already have that intrinsic value inside of them. It's not really about, okay, now I have to accomplish all these things, or I have to do this, or I have to convert to this religion, and then I'm worthy and I'm good. No, every human being is perfect already. You are, I am, perfect already. Okay, yeah, there's also things we need to work on. And that's one of the interesting paradoxes of life that, we're constantly struggling with. I know I constantly struggle with. I am perfect, and I'm working on things. You are perfect. And there's also things I'm sure you could work on. But I think that one of the real important parts of black and white thinking is that we have to have that sense sometimes of we're just utterly awesome. Don't stay there. You also have to look at the things that need work, but also know that you're perfect. So I think I'll wrap that up. There's so much more that we could say about black and white thinking, about the complexity or nuanced thinking. That's a subject for another video. For now, I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to say that that's a perfect video and not emphasize too much all of the mistakes that I've made, because that's a hard way to live life, is just constantly looking at all of that complexity all of the time. Sometimes you just have to put out some content and, trust that good things are going to happen. So I hope you have a great day. Bye for now.